Right.
So, but I think people just kind of let those two overlap.
Yeah, and they don't have that official conversation. And sometimes that's intentional.
Stop. I'm sorry. We have to start.
Oh,
I
okay.
made a mistake. It was on my end.
Okay.
Okay.
So we can start again in five, four, three, two.
Miller, and I'm a member of Brown Missionary Baptist Church.
And I'm Katrina Bradshaw, your host, and I'm also a member of Brown Missionary Baptist Church. Okay, let's start with our first question. Define the roles of dating, girlfriend and boyfriend, and wife and husband.
So with dating, girlfriend and boyfriend, I often refer back to being a teenager. You know, you're dating someone in high school, maybe even in college. You all just kind of hang out. Even in college, you may be study buddies, but you're more so like friends and getting to know one another. Whereas when you are married, it's more of a deeper and a long-lasting commitment. But I also think that you should also continue to date one another and treat each other as if you are still boyfriend and girlfriend. Again, just to keep the romance and the flame going in your marriage.
Yes. And for me, dating is getting to know each other. Of course, hopefully dating would lead to that courtship, that girlfriend, boyfriend stage. During that stage, some areas of commitment are developed, but of course, when marriage comes along, then that's the ultimate commitment, lifetime commitment. Sometimes those phases tend to overlap if we don't have those conversations to discuss which phase and what our intentions are. And so all three stages are very important in developing relationships, but they all have different roles.
Absolutely.
Sounds good. So, would you care to date in private, or would you prefer to be more public? Why or why not?
Good question. So I think some aspects of your relationship should be private. However, I guess it depends on the relationship and the two individuals. If that's private or public is good for both of them, they still have to be on one accord with that. So if one person wants to be private and the other one wants to be public, there's going to be some conflict. So I think that's a discussion that needs to be had as well. Personally, like I said, some aspects private, but public mostly, because I often question what's the intentions of private dating. Right.
If you could never be seen outside
Right.
together, all your dates are couch dates.
Yes, right, exactly.
And I too think that it all depends on, again, the conversation that you and the person that you're dating have had with one another. I do think that certain aspects of your relationship should be private. I don't think everyone should be in your business. Oftentimes, that's the reason and how relationships are ruined, because everyone is posting everything on social media.
Absolutely.
But I think there is a time span on that. You know, you may want to start out as you're getting to know one another. And I think it's not so good to always post publicly right off, because what if it doesn't work out? Then you
Right.
have all of the scrutiny, like what happened, and so on and so forth. So I think that there should be a period of time where it is you're dating privately until you both decide, like, hey, we want to go further with this.
Right, when there's a true commitment.
So let's talk about friends and family. And you're saying you're dating privately, or you're public. No one. Who are you telling? So it's kind of like the people who need to know.
Right.
So how important is it in meeting his friends?
Well, I think that is very important at a certain stage in the relationship. Reason being, you know, oftentimes when you're getting to know someone, people will tell you what they want you to know about them, but they're not always everything. You know, a lot of the times I think men are on that need to know basis. And so when you get a chance to be around their friends, you know, of course your friends gonna always tell the truth and tell everything about you, whether you want it to be told or not. So I think that's very important. Then it also tells you how that person feels about you enough to even want to bring you around their friends and their family. That says a lot.
And I agree with that. Family, yes, you definitely need to meet someone's family once you all get to that stage, but you cannot choose your family, but you do choose your friends. So your choice of friends does indicate some characteristics about that person, but not always. Some of us have lifetime friends, older friends that we had since elementary, high school, and so their characteristics and behaviors may not be aligned with our beliefs, but they're still our friends. However, if you have a group of friends or numerous friends with the same characteristics, that typically indicates who or what you are, even though you may not have displayed it yet.
So, friends, maybe after you've been dating for a while.
Yes.
Family, definitely once you're in the relationship.
Yes,
Yes.
definitely.
Because your family will say, well, what happened to that?
Yes.
Okay, so let's go to the next thing. What do you think the pros and cons are of being single as you mature in age?
So for me, it's given me an opportunity to learn more about myself. I have been married before, divorced now, and so things that occurred during my marriage would not occur during this time of my life because I have matured, I've learned more, I've grown closer to Christ. And then it's just giving you a time to reflect and think about your desires, your needs, what your intentions are with dating, with a relationship. So as you mature in Christ and as you get older, you do reflect more, you journal more, you think about things more, and you look towards the end instead of just enjoying, companionship. You know what you need and what you want in life at this point.
For me, I think when you're younger, I think we're dating for our friends and our family. We get into relationships because we're still looking at that age factor, which is held towards women more often than men. So I think you kind of just go through the motions. You're dating people, oh, he's cute, so let me date him, or because he's interested in me, so let me date him. But as you get older and you've gone through some relationships or perhaps even been married and since divorce, you learn more about yourself when you take the time to just step back from relationships or even dating. And for me, it has allowed me, as I've gotten older, to really know what I want and what I don't want.
Right.
And then everything else I leave up to God. So he knows what's best for us. And oftentimes, we have preferences when we're dating and we're trying to select someone. But I just think now, no more games.
Right.
30 days is a wrap. After 30 days, it's a wrap. Because either you know where we're going or we're not going anywhere at all.
Okay, let's talk about those 30 days. So, without giving away too many of your secrets, what are you using, what are you measuring in those 30 days?
I am looking at the level of interest that the person is showing towards me. Now being over 40, dating is a little different for me, and I look at it differently. So it goes beyond just sending me a text every now and again. For me, when it comes to the ways of communicating between two people, I feel that you text when it's inconvenience for you to speak verbally on the phone. And so a lot of times, men say, they use the excuse. I'll say use the excuse. Oh, I'm just not a phone person. Okay, so then we said, well, let's meet up somewhere. Oh, I don't have the time. So which one is it? Are you interested or you're not interested? And I just don't believe in wasting anyone's time. Time is money and money is time, and don't waste my time.
Right. And women are communicators. And so we have that need for communication. And like Yolanda said, text messages is fine. However, we need that one-on-one, in-person, verbal communication, because a lot of times you need to gauge someone's body language and things of that sort. So communication is vital.
Absolutely.
And I think we live in such a digital age that people have just, younger generations
Right.
are really comfortable with it. And
Right.
they text all day long.
Absolutely.
They know the full
Live with those
conversation.
phones.
And they're in love, and that's my husband, and that's my wifey. Yeah.
But it just depends on the generation.
Right.
Even though there may be a Gen X guy, he may have dated someone, a millennial girl.
Right.
Millennial woman, millennial woman. And she's a texter. He may have gotten comfortable with
Right.
her. And now when he goes back to date a Gen X woman, it's like, I don't do
Yeah, exactly.
it kind of, But I think lots of people just got comfortable.
Yeah.
It's convenient.
Yeah.
You don't have to stop what you're doing to have a conversation. I can cook and tell Siri to respond to your text
Right.
message. Do it all the time.
Right.
But also, we have to think about how text messaging, the messages can become misconstrued.
Right.
And then that causes a whole nother, aspect of the communication part. And so that can lead to an argument or disagreement. And then when you actually meet face to face and you discuss with it, well, see, I didn't know, I was getting something else from it.
Right.
And I think people say things and they can see it's not coming across. They're like, am I saying it the right way? And they put the little laughing emoji on.
Right.
To kind of, break the tension if there
Right.
may be some.
Right. So I think we have to be intentional, and part of calling instead of texting is sacrifice. And so that lets you know whether or not that person is willing to put you before their own desires and needs at that moment.
Okay. And since we're talking about the texting and the time it takes to text, and if you have time, should you gauge how much he or she cares by the time they spend with you? And when we say that, what about if they have a demanding job, but they do make time for you? It just might be 4 days a week. It's just 2 days a week. Do you think that's enough, or do you need more, depending on how far along you are in the relationship?
Absolutely. I think it is how far you are in the relationship. And then again, it goes back to that general and initial conversation. If I meet someone and they have a demanding job, but it's someone that I'm really interested in getting to know, then on my part, I should be more understanding.
Absolutely.
I can see it if the person just decided to not communicate at all. But if we have that mutual understanding up front, then I'm not going to hold that person to a higher expectation because they told me up front. Now, sometimes you can get in relationships and a person don't tell you that their life is very demanding, right?
Right.
And so then on down the road, you're like, hey, what happened? Or we start off and you're just a great communicator. And then along the way, it's like, okay, I don't receive any text messages, no calls anymore, no type of communication, you know. And so I just think it is where you are in a relationship, and then it's all about what you can tolerate. As Candace said, it's about tolerance. Relationships are about tolerance.
Yes. And so you definitely should be tolerable with someone that has a demanding job, a demanding schedule with their children. So yes. But if that person has time to hang with buddies and friends and chooses that lane instead of, spending time with you, then yeah, that is a cause for concern. So if it's job related, children, family, of course, totally understandable. But if you have that time and you're choosing to do optional activities with your friends or buddies or hang out or whatever, and not choosing to spend time with me, then that's an indication of your interest.
So, we're talking about interest and time and just things about their personality, maybe. Are you willing to overlook certain turnoffs you have if you're really feeling a person, or is it deal breaker or deal breaker? Now, when I say turnoffs, let's think like maybe they're a cigarette smoker, or can't think of it.
Cigarette smoke, no.
Okay.
So there are some deal breakers.
Now, I had a conversation with someone about
Okay.
this. So hold on. Now, he smokes cigarettes, but you don't know it. You've never seen him smoke a cigarette.
Okay.
He doesn't smell like cigarettes.
Okay.
You don't see any evidence of cigarettes either.
And he hasn't had the conversation with you about smoking, or he has.
So you're gonna ask if you smoke cigarettes. That's one of your questions when you meet someone.
Yes.
It is. Okay.
Do you smoke?
Okay.
Well, I actually just had this to happen. I have been communicating with a person. My mother was a smoker. And just on the phone, the conversation, I knew that he was a smoker. So we went out. We went out on a date. Now, he didn't smell like cigarette smoke or anything like that. And as we were on the date, we began talking. He said, well, I know this is probably going to be a deal breaker for you. And I said, I already know what it is. And he was like, well, what is it? I said, you smoke. He said, well, how could you tell? Because you have a smoker's cough. So it's some other telltale signs, but I feel that relationships, marriage is about tolerance and compromise. But I also feel that now that I'm over the age of 40, if I start compromising on some of those deal breakers up front, then the expectation is that something else happens along the way that I'm going to compromise and forgive and keep moving, and that may not happen.
Right. So there are some things that, you're willing to compromise, but there are some deal breakers that are just deal breakers.
What are some of those? What do you have?
Katrina! Lack of communication, like I'm a communicator. I love to talk. I love my friends. I love communicating with friends. And so when there's a lack of communication, that's a deal breaker for me because you can't know someone without communication. So if you're going days without communicating, me hearing from you, then that's a deal breaker. Like I said, smoking. If you have children and not taking care of your children or having relationships with your children, that's a deal breaker. Or your relationship with your family, that tells a lot about you as well.
Where's the deal breakers for you?
The number one is just lying, just being a liar, lying about things for no reason, lying about your name, your age, you know, your
What you do,
occupation,
right.
lying, you know, you
Just
got
life.
3 kids and you say you have none. You know,
my.
that is definitely an infidelity. You know, the way I view it now is either you're into me, you like me, I'm the one for you, and I may not be the one for you, but I will hope that as an adult and you be mature enough to say, hey, I don't think this is going to work out, and there's no loss, there's no love loss, and we can keep
Right.
moving.
Okay, sounds good, sounds good. So we need those deal breakers. Now, since we're talking about if they're showing interest, how do you let a man know that you're interested?
Well, I would say this, now that I've gotten older, I also become bolder. So I do not have no problem going up to a man and giving him a compliment. For me, what has happened is that I may give a compliment and it kind of surprises the gentleman because it's like, oh, the lady is saying something first. But that's just me. I'm a people person, but I will give a compliment and I would just tell them that I would like to get to know you, or you know, I think, you know, we need to talk. So I've gotten bolder the older I've gotten.
I haven't gotten to Yolanda stage yet, but I guess for me, if I take the time to talk to you, if I actually give you my real name and number, that means I have some interest, because sometimes I'm Nicole. So, so you know, if I actually give you my real name and number, then I have a genuine interest.
Okay.
Yeah,
But see, they don't know that Nicole is not your name.
they'll figure it out.
See, I have friends that would give me, if we're out together and there's someone that they don't feel is the right person for me, they would give them another name for me. I don't even have to say anything. My friends would just,
Hi, Jessica.
her name's Michelle. I'm like, what? So it's good to have friends that know you, that know you. So
Absolutely.
So earlier we talked about family, friends and family. How do you think your parents' relationship impacts yours?
Yeah. I think all of your relationships are impacted by your relationship with your parents or your families. Sometimes you're not even aware of it. And so there are some things that that occurred in my parents' marriage that, you know, I said, I'll never tolerate that. So, you know, so that does impact the way you interact with men, because you saw things that occurred in your parents' marriage that you don't want to endure through your relationships and marriage.
I think anything that you observe that is negative versus positive, especially for me growing up, I would say that everything that I witnessed with my parents in their marriage was not always the best for me as a teenager, even as a young woman growing up. But what I can say is that I wanted the type of love, I desired the type of love that they have. My mother died, and then my father died 9 months after that because he was lost without her. As Candace stated, along the way, it was some things I was telling my mother, I'm like, there is no way that I would put up. But my mother had a conversation with me when I was about 17 about being married and understanding taking vows and what that means, that it's not, you're just not taking vows with a man, you're taking vows before God. And so I didn't think about it and didn't understand that at that time, but as I've gotten older, I really understand now what that actually means. So I think like any type of relationship or any type of observation, you can learn what to do and what not to do.
Yeah.
Now we're talking about parents, so let's stay on parents for a little bit. Our parents met differently than people meet now.
Right.
It was probably church, or they were a friend, or a family member,
Right.
or maybe even if they worked in the same place or same building. you all feel about online dating?
You know, due to COVID and the pandemic, I think it has become increasingly popular. I have dated online, so I've learned to be open-minded about a lot of things, especially dating in this season. So I don't see a problem with it, but you just have to be aware that people can become anyone online. And so just, you know, I think your expectations shouldn't be high.
Right. And I have not personally dated online, but I don't see a problem with it. People could pretend when you meet them at Walmart or Kroger. So I know one friend said, you know, I'm scared to date someone online. I meet online, they can be crazy. I said, girl, they can be crazy when you meet them at Kroger. So it doesn't matter. You just have to make sure that you're prayerful. You're paying attention to those signals and signs, and you know, you're having those conversations to truly learn that person. And hopefully you all will be able to eventually meet in person and date in person, so you can become more aware of that person and who he is.
And I'm glad you said that because you hear these stories about people they've been in this relationship for 2 years, but they've never had.
Right.
Or even a relationship.
Right.
And they met online, and of course they've been catfish.
Right.
So,
But there's a lot. I know the commercials for eHarmony state the success rates for those that get married, and they met online. So I guess there are some success stories with that as well.
there are, and I guess
Yeah.
you just have to know how to handle it. Like,
Right.
you know, so you don't get catfish, you need to FaceTime.
Exactly.
And the voice on the FaceTime person needs to sound like the same voice on just
Right.
Right. But I've had friends to get married from eHarmony, and I think their take on something like eHarmony is that because you have to pay for it, that people tend to be more serious about a relationship. But don't be too quick to say your voice, because there's so many things with technology. You can change your voice.
Right.
You know, you do video chat, and they can do all types of things. So.
So eventually, after you FaceTime, you have to go out. You do have to share
Right.
the person,
Yes.
not just
Make sure you're not having any Photoshop pictures and all of that good stuff.
So, if online is not for a person, where can a man go to meet his future wife? The answer is not Kroger, or Home Depot, or Lowe's. No, that's not the answer. So, now I'll tell you where all the answers.
Right. So I'm not sure. I mean, it can occur anywhere. Work, church, baseball field, just wherever. I mean, it can occur anywhere.
The gym, the bookstore, but I think
Right.
when you attach the word wife, you know, from guy friends and family members, you know, they often say that, oh, I knew that she was going to be my wife when I first saw her. And so that could be in a car beside you, that could be at the gas
Right.
station. So it is anywhere if you have intentions and you really are marriage minded.
Right.
I had a
Exactly.
college friend, her sister met her husband at Southside.
Oh,
But,
wow.
you know, no one's really pulling over for you these days.
No.
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 I'm sorry.
No.
Write your numbers.
Right.
Put it on the bus.
Exactly.
Or your signals.
Right.
But, yeah.
No.
So, okay. I have a couple more little fun questions.
Okay.
So, these are yours. Why do you go to the restroom in groups? The men want to know.
Safety. Even in
It's
college,
safety.
my friends and I, at Alcorn, the people deemed us the six-pack plus because it was always 6 or more of us, and we still call ourselves that today. And so we knew if we went anywhere, all of us came together and we left together. There was no exception to that. And so it's safety, and it just amazes me. I watch a lot of crime shows and how college students are walking home by themselves, young ladies, or, you know, leaving events by themselves. And I was like, we would never. And so
Right.
it was just about safety, and it was not anything that someone had to teach us. We just
Right.
knew we had to take care of each other because we were sisters. And so it's just all about safety for me.
As Candace stated, there's safety in numbers. But then also with your girlfriends, you go out, you have to check each other, make sure you, you know, make sure my hair is still in place, make sure my lips are still popping. You know, I just need to know. And if you got real friends, they'll
Right.
tell you.
Right.
And so it's really about when we go to the bathroom. Of course, everyone doesn't have to use the bathroom, but you know,
Right.
you're just there. But you know, hey, Katrina, I'm gonna, okay, girl, you straight? You know, and then we go on back to where we came from.
Right.
And some people have said they go to talk about the men. So,
Right.
That happens a time or two.
Right. About 3 or 4.
Okay. Last question.
Okay.
Why can't you decide what to eat?
I don't know. Look, I don't know. Still indecisive.
It's so
Right.
many options.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And then I think too, truth be told, especially if you're going out on a first date, you're thinking like, well, I don't want him to think that I'm a glutton. I don't want him to, so you're thinking about that. We always stay safe with a salad or something like that, right? Because you also are trying to get to know one another, so you don't want to have anything that's going to take you forever to eat. I'm a slow eater. And so I can go out and my food will just be there and it's like a to-go box. But because I'm really trying to get to know a person, and I'm also making observations because I need to know how you act in public.
Right. Exactly. And then sometimes we're trying to let the man lead, make a decision. We don't want to become overbearing, and we want to see what his thoughts are and what he likes. So sometimes we're just trying to be considerate.
Well, ladies,